Zumbi dos Palmares, the Lion of Freedom. Chapter 1. Birth of a Legend, 1655 to 1670. In the heart of the dense Brazilian Atlantic forests, Zumbi was born in 1655 in the kingdom of Quilombo dos Palmares, the largest community of escaped slaves in the history of the Americas. Zumbi was no ordinary child. He was born to parents who were African slaves who had escaped from Portuguese sugarcane plantations. His name carried deep meaning. Zumbi, in the Congo language, means spirit or ghost, as if destiny was paving the way for his legend from birth. In those early years, Zumbi lived a simple life in the embrace of pristine Brazilian nature, learning the arts of combat, agriculture, and hunting from the elders of the community. But the peaceful dream did not last long. During one of the brutal Portuguese raids on the settlement, young Zumbi was kidnapped while still a small child. He was sold to a cruel plantation owner in the state of Pernambuco, where he suffered the worst forms of torture and slavery. Chapter 2. Return from Hell, 1670 to 1678. For many years, Zumbi worked in the sugarcane fields under the whips of white masters, but the flame of freedom never died in his heart. On a dark night in 1670, after 9 years of captivity, 15-year-old Zumbi successfully escaped. Through dark forests and rugged mountains, Zumbi traveled arduous distances until he finally returned to Palmares, his homeland. But he returned a different man, a man filled with anger and determination to free his brothers from the grip of colonialism. In Palmares, Zumbi found a unique community. The kingdom spanned an enormous area, estimated at 30,000 square kilometers, housing between 20,000 to 30,000 escaped slaves. Palmares was an independent state in its own right, containing agricultural villages, blacksmith workshops, commercial markets, and even small churches. Chapter 3. Rise of the Leader, 1678 to 1680. Thanks to his exceptional courage and strategic intelligence, Zumbi quickly climbed the ladder of leadership in Palmares. In 1678, he became the supreme leader of the kingdom after the death of the previous leader. He was only 23 years old at the time, but he carried a revolutionary vision. Under Zumbi's leadership, Palmares transformed from a mere refuge for escapees into an organized military state. He built an advanced defense system based on wooden fortifications fortified on mountaintops, a network of secret tunnels connecting villages, specialized commando units for lightning attacks, an early warning system using drums and horns. But Zumbi was not just a warrior, he was also a skilled diplomat. He established alliances with local Native American tribes and developed a secret trade network with sympathetic Portuguese merchants. Chapter 4. War of Independence, 1680 to 1694. The real war began. Portuguese and Dutch authorities, who were competing for control of the region, realized that Palmares represented an existential threat to the entire slavery system. The kingdom had become a beacon of hope for millions of slaves in Brazil and a source of inspiration for revolutions everywhere. The Portuguese launched 11 major military campaigns against Palmares during Zumbi's reign, but failed every time. Zumbi skillfully used guerrilla warfare tactics. We know the forests as we know the palms of our hands. The enemy comes with his heavy armies, but we move like the wind between the trees. In one famous battle in 1685, Zumbi managed to repel a Portuguese army of 6,000 soldiers using only 800 of his fighters, exploiting the terrain and well-planned ambushes. Chapter 5. Betrayal and Fall, 1694 to 1695. But the prolonged attrition took its toll. After 16 years of continuous war, Palmares' resources began to deplete. Weapons and ammunition ran out. Agricultural crops were destroyed, and the population began suffering from hunger and disease. On February 6, 1694, the capital of Palmares, known as Macaco, finally fell to Portuguese forces led by Domingos Jorge Velho. The main reason for the fall was betrayal. One of the community members, named Antonio Suarez, disclosed the secret locations of fortifications to the Portuguese in exchange for pardon. But Zumbi did not surrender. He fled with the remaining fighters into the mountains, where he continued guerrilla warfare for additional months. He was determined to die standing, not kneeling. Chapter 6. Martyrdom of the Lion, November 20th, 1695. On November 20th, 1695, in a well-planned ambush set by Portuguese agents, Zumbi was captured. He was not killed in battle, but taken alive. Zumbi was transferred to a public square in the city of Recife, where he was hanged before crowds of colonists and slaves. But even in his final moments, Zumbi remained defiant. Eyewitnesses recounted that he refused the Portuguese request to kneel and remained standing until his last breath. After his execution, his body was beheaded and dismembered as a message of terror to other slaves. But this message did not extinguish the flame of revolution. It ignited it even more. The Eternal Legacy. Zumbi dos Palmares became a global symbol of resistance against colonialism and slavery. November 20th became Black Consciousness Day in Brazil, celebrated annually since 1971. Statues were erected for him in numerous Brazilian cities. Hundreds of books, songs, and films were written about him. He became a symbol for anti-racism movements around the world. Historians say Zumbi's resistance lasted approximately 100 years since the foundation of Palmares, making it the longest slave revolution in the history of the Americas. Palmares was not merely a settlement of escapees, but the first free African state in the New World, providing a model for freedom and dignity. As long as there is one free spirit, Palmares will never die. Zumbi dos Palmares, 1655 to 1695, was not merely a military leader, but a living dream that every human being, regardless of skin color, deserves freedom and dignity. And although his body fell, his spirit remained alive in the hearts of millions who dream of justice and liberation.